Hello, and welcome to the Cancer Journey podcast. I'm Alicia.
And I'm Sherry Ann.
So let's start with Pesh. I think you started last time, so I'll start this time. Physically, I am a 4.25. Emotionally, I am a 4.4. Spirit is a 4. And hope is a 4.25. And my word is connection.
Okay. Physically, I am a 4. Emotionally, I am a 4.4. Spirit, 4.5. Hope, 4.7. And my word is progress.
Okay, so we're just going to continue the little series that we started because we were so jazzed about everything we were talking about in the last episode. And we're talking about stress responses, which are also called trauma responses. So last episode, we were talking mostly about freeze and how, when we are in freeze, depending on how conscious we are able to utilize that space. And we started to tap into fight. So today our episode is going to be focusing on the stress response of fight when we think of fight or flight.
Yes, yes. And just to kind of underscore this, we don't have a lot of control initially to how we react. It is our limbic system. It is the animal part of us that kind of dictates whether you're going to fight or flight or freeze or on. So
Yeah,
that's just, I mean, what I want to say is we all have it, and just being aware of what our tendency is really powerful.
yeah, absolutely. And to know that the first reaction, the first response isn't everything. It's just what innately comes to us. And that's why, as we said in our last episode, we think it's really important to start to embody what each of these feel like so we can recognize it ahead of time instead of only noticing when that moment comes about.
Right. Being aware and recognizing it, because it is this reactionary response. It's not
Mhm,
even a response, it's just a reaction. And so, what do we do with that? Especially when it shows up as fight.
mhm.
And we were doing just a little bit of talking beforehand about how, kind of in my family's history, where we have the tendency to fight,
Mhm.
good or bad. It's just the awareness that we do this. I got to protect. And I'm here to, like, head on, which,
Right.
as I think about it, it's like, wow, that's kind of scary, because it's like I'm ready to go forward versus move back.
Yeah. So like let's just start with like getting in to the space of what does it feel like to be in fight and like what does that feel like in your body? I think for me, I probably said this during the freeze also, but like I see red. Like I feel my blood start to boil and like I'm like all of my energy is much more forward, like even in my body, and it makes me want to do and take action and um it very much gives me the sense of like I'm not okay with how things are. I need them to change right this second. Yeah.
So I'm laughing because what's coming up for me is that my heart starts racing and pumping, like, fast and hard, and I could feel that. So then all of a sudden I have this surge of adrenaline, and um it makes me, like, want to go into action. So it's this movement in me, and then I want control.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is this automatic boom, 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 control the situation. And even though, we're tiny, we still have this idea that we are big and strong. And so it's like, "Urgh, how am I
Right.
going to control what's going on?"
I'm
That
getting the image of we have like a little Hulk moment where like we get angry and all of a sudden we're like growing into this big monster. There is this like heavy vibration, like it's not a convulsion, but it kind of like this shake that like I can't contain this energy any longer. Like it's here, but it needs to bust out. And it also is kind of giving the same, not entirely, but the same feeling of like suppressing your emotions for a really, really long time, that we have that explosive um expression of it, whether we explode at someone, we call it we call it the fart, we call it the beach ball coming out of the water. Um, we call it so many different things, but that's it feels very similar to me as I'm like, once my first reaction hits, that's the explosion. And that's me in fight.
I love the imagery of the Hulk moment. And let's bring that back to the cancer journey, especially in a diagnosis, which is one of the most traumatic parts of the journey, is because all of a sudden you're going down this path and then something steps in your way and it says, no, you can't go there. You're now going this way. And it's not a choice point. It's like, nope, not a detour. You thought you were going to go this way and you're now going this way. So go. And so that surprise, the shock, the awe of it is like, wait a minute, I didn't ask for this. So you could feel the anger and the starting to come
And
out.
that exact situation that causes the trauma response and how we could easily see it going to fight. I mean, it could be any trauma response that comes with that specific like trigger. But it makes so much sense that it would go to fight. But I'm curious too, like what is coming up as like the expression of that fight, you know? Is it like head down, I'm doing work now and I'm furiously doing research to figure out what comes next? Or is it like screaming at your significant other because you're so angry about what's going on? Or, are you like fighting your doctor and saying, no, it's not, run tests again. Like it can't be that, like I think there's so many ways it can present itself. So while the stress response may be fight, it can come up in many different ways.
Absolutely. And I do think that it's underneath it is the desire to control. But when control's in the room, it's because there's fear. So the fear response is so great that it's like, I can't be with it as it is. So how can I impact it? How can I morph it? And it's really an action forward motion versus all the other stress responses. It's like, I'm on it. I'm being called. I'm here and I've got to do something. It's a lot of doing energy
Yeah.
in that hulkness.
Yeah, I completely agree that it feels like just straight action. It's straight doing, and it's doing something that directly affects whatever the situation is in that moment. There is no being. I actually think there's like no thought. It's probably one of the most emotional spaces to be in because like talk about a swirl of emotions in that moment, right? And there really is nothing to do in that moment for you either. So there's this kind of hopelessness that comes with that as well. I mean, there's so many emotions that are wrapped into that experience that I'm really trying to put myself into. Um, that yeah, I mean, it's feeling like Hulk energy. Like I have no control, and I'm just gonna Hulk out. I have no control of what emotions are coming up. I'm not trying to manage them at all. Like I'm just all emotion and doing, and it needs to happen now.
Right, right. So it's definitely the constricting emotions. So we're feeling constricted, and all of a sudden we're given this trauma situation, and you're like totally squeezed in, and it's like, no, that doesn't feel good. And so for those who are in a fight response, it's like, no, I've got to break out of whatever's making me feel constricted so that I can feel not constricted. That's what I believe. And so it
Yeah.
is this, and it is a doing, because the head probably isn't engaged and it's suspended and it's like, okay, animal, go.
Right. It really goes back to that primitive version of ourselves, like you were saying before, that primal desire that like we need to take action right away to change our situation. Back in those times, back in caveman days, I mean, those changes helped immediately. They helped, I mean, they fixed or they hurt the situation, but they directly impacted the situation. Now, in this era of our lives, we don't need that same response in the same way. I'm not saying that it can't serve you. I'm also not saying that it's a bad thing to have your initial response be a fight response, but we can now, it makes more sense to better direct it based on what situation you're in because it's so much more complex now. It's so much more intellectual and emotional than it used to be rather than just practical.
Right. And I think this is where the emotional intelligence, or even so, I think it is emotional intelligence, but really it's the emotional awareness. Just like, oh, I'm feeling a particular emotion or a variety of emotions, and I'm in the reaction of that. So feel, react. It's like a nanosecond in between. And so, what's important for us in this whole discussion is being aware of what is our typical response. So, when the heart starts beating and you could feel the blood flowing and you're seeing red, then it's like, uh-oh, I just got triggered.
Hmm.
So you may go beyond that trigger response. No, no, sorry. Trigger reaction. And then it's like, I'm reacting and this is not how I want to be, because the brain becomes online again. It's like
Hmm.
intellectually we're like, oh, okay, 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 I've got me. Ooh, I just said some really mean things, or ooh, I just punched forward. And it's like, now if we could kind of lean into the freeze, but really the pause, it's like, I'm sorry, I just need to step back for a moment and gather myself, because we're realizing, right, that we're being, like, not sequestered, we're being pulled into this reaction. And if we could catch ourselves to not make the situation worse, because let me just speak for myself, some of my anger responses are not very nice, and in my enraged responses are horrible. So, like, I'm sorry, let me catch myself, let me come on back. Let me just take a pause and then be willing to make the apology and re-engage and reassess, and like, take whatever time you need instead of
Hmm.
having to deal with it in the moment, which might, and I'm starting to move over to the other responses. Maybe you do step back and flee, you know?
Yeah. I mean, so yes, yes to everything you said. This is also why recognizing how fight feels in your body for you specifically, right? Like it might feel different depending on who you are and what experiences and traumas have made you who you are today. But by taking a moment to recognize what this feels like for you when it comes up again, it's familiar. You like literally recognize it again when it comes up actively, and you can be like, oh, oh, that's there it is, there it is, and slowly but surely you can begin to make the choice to shift out of it or figure out how you want to be instead. And again, this comes with a lot of pre-work. I don't expect anyone in the moment of being triggered and having not thought about it before to be able to just jump out of their fight mode. And as you said, there is absolutely no shame in apologizing at any time for whatever response that you've had and the impact that you've had. There's a whole thing about intention versus impact here, and I won't go deep into that, but a lot of times when you're in fight, you're likely to negatively impact those around you or whoever is feeling the fire that's coming out of your fight. And at any time, immediately, 2 days from now, 2 minutes from then, 2 years, especially if it's something that sits with you and you're like, that is not who I wanted to show up as, and I really think I impacted someone, you could never you're never going to be too late to apologize or at least acknowledge that you did that and that that was not your intention. And I think that's really important for people because some people are like, oh, it was so long ago, like it probably doesn't even matter. It's like, well, if you're thinking about it, it matters, you know? And to that person, it probably definitely matters, no matter how big or small they took it, right? But it really couldn't hurt to follow up and just see it could repair a relationship. It could, you know, do wonders to whatever damage was done before. Even just, you know, healing a small pocket of someone's heart.
Yes. And what's coming up for me is that compassion is really important here because we're just learning, and because it's such a automatic response, it's not like we're controlling it. So I get what you said, like the awareness of how do I respond to something like that, and just noticing, okay, uh-oh, I'm feeling warm, my heart's beating, I'm seeing red, as I said before. Just realizing those are okay. That's what normally happens when I'm triggered. And then it's, yes, I might have lashed out. And then maybe, the apology takes a while to come, as you said, could take 2 years. And it's never, never too late. But first starting with you and having compassion with, wow, so I got triggered, and it was what they said, but I'm not going to blame them because I can't control what somebody else says, what somebody else thinks, but I can control me. So if I come back and say, yeah, I got triggered, whatever amount of time it takes you to get calm and be able to tap into some compassion for yourself is a good thing. That's growth right there. We're learning to be more with how we are and parts of us that we can't not control, and become aware so that we can do better. That saying, I think it was Maya Angelou, when you know better, do better.
Hmm.
And so by knowing more about how we respond and what triggers us, we can do better.
Yeah. Yeah, I think compassion was such a perfect way to go there because so often we don't have compassion for ourselves least of all, but like others, it's a little bit easier for us. But it's hard for us to think of compassion sometimes separate from love or separate from um, other kinds of connection. Like compassion is the permission. Compassion is the grace around like needing that time to heal. As you're talking, one of our tools came up for me, responsibility formula. I mean, that's a whole big tool, but what it always reminds me of is the part of the tool where you're kind of apologizing to yourself, and it can feel so silly at first. Or I forgive you is what it is, I think. Yeah,
Yes,
and it's yeah, and
forgiving ourselves.
forgiving yourself, yeah, and it sounds so silly at first, especially if you're like looking in a mirror and talking to yourself into a mirror. Just saying any, affirmations to yourself can feel really silly in a mirror, but the repetition of that practice really and saying it to yourself does really help, and it helps you build compassion and trust and forgiveness in yourself because we're the first ones who are going to be hardest on ourselves, and we're going to blame ourselves and make ourselves wrong and talk poorly to ourselves. Negative ego, another tool. And give ourselves all of that weight, but we're also the only ones who can alleviate it with some more compassion. And honestly, we need to do that before we're able to show other people compassion too. Um, because even when we show them compassion at the end of the day, it's also their journey and their choice to move however they want to shift. But really, for ourselves, we only have power over what's internal in ourselves, and only we can make the choice to do better as we learn and grow and communicate that with the people around us because no one knows unless you tell them.
Right. Ah, I'm just being with, the whole responsibility formula and forgiving ourselves because we don't. And that's how the trauma lives on. It's like replaying what happened and going, oh, I wish I didn't do that. Or I don't like them anymore because they did that to me. And so now we're holding a grudge and blaming somebody else versus taking responsibility for what happened for ourselves. And that's why it's called the responsibility formula. It is a big deal. And so there's so many of us walking around continually traumatized, so that if any trigger that was similar to what happened before pops up, and then so now we're right, stress response, all that we're talking about, your limbic system, we're triggered again, and now we're traumatized again, and now we're reacting, and it's like, oh, here comes that vicious circle yet again, something else to beat yourself up about. So the more that we become aware, and I can't believe how many times we say this, but that whole gift of pausing for ourselves and slowing things down in a world that keeps telling us to go faster and faster, and of course react right now, and there's something that's attacking you, there's something that's coming after you, and there's a predator, you've got to protect yourself and do it right now and fast before it kills you. It's so prevalent that it's almost like the antithesis of us trying to lean into slowing down life and being more in awareness of what's happening. So this conversation is lovely because it's reminding me I'm an animal just like everybody else, that I get triggered and I have a response. And so the more I can be with my, I keep saying response, it's my reaction, is then I can respond, which is so much more grounded than reacting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when you're saying the vicious cycle, it really does. Like you're on a hamster wheel and until you decide to get off and make that change. You're only going to become more and more exhausted and overwhelmed as you're on it, as well as, perpetuate a lot of that um I want to say anger, and I don't want to say negative emotions, but like you perpetuate that energy on the people around you when you don't do the work to take care of yourself. If you let yourself fall to the wayside and be the last one who's taken care of, um, you're not the only one who suffers, because we are interpersonal relationship people. Like we're not in a silo by ourselves, not interacting with anyone ever. There's so much more around us, and our energy really does affect those around us, whether we're close or far. We still reside in the same world, the same universe, if we're going to get into the connectedness part of it. But um, it's really important to take care of ourselves. It's so, so important. And to make the choice to,
Yeah.
or even start to try to do something different.
Yes, 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 yes. I think that's the crux of it. So this is going to be my takeaway, that we are connected beings, that we all want to be connected, but it's times like this when you're triggered and when you have a trauma situation where we start separating ourselves because it doesn't feel good to be with other people who could trigger us, and we don't know how to handle that. Right, the limbic system takes over and we react, but then we go on and beat ourselves up for however we behaved in that situation. So, if we could remember that we are connected beings, that we don't need to separate ourselves. And I think that is one of the pains of the world right now, is people are separating more, albeit it was exacerbated by COVID. But we're yeah, we're in such a reaction that it just kind of swirls and doesn't stop. And so my PESH now is physical. Ooh, 4.4 came up. So emotional 4.5, spirit 4.7, hope 4.7, and my word is um, calm. Just by saying all of that, it's just like, ah,
Yeah.
how about you? Your
My
takeaway?
takeaway. My takeaway is that fight can be a really hard one to be with. It can be, I think, one of the most challenging stress responses to be with because it wants to immediately take action, and there isn't a lot of like thoughtful conscientiousness behind it, there is a lot of tension, and that hulking out is like feels so real in that space. Um, but the idea of compassion for yourself and whatever happens, and what a beautiful world we would live in if we could all have that compassion for ourselves and others to come back and be like, I didn't want to have that impact. I am so sorry. I obviously can't take it away, but I do want to continue to move forward and know that I don't want to do that again. And it's really a gift when someone allows you to be in that space and accept your apology and really witness you for wanting to be better. Um, and so we're really lucky when we get to have people like that who really understand that it's a constant um, journey to be who we really want to be and to react to things the way we want to react to. Compassion, compassion, and my pesh. Physically, I'm a 4.3. Emotionally, I'm a 4.5. Spiritually, a 4.3. And hope is a 4.4. And my word is slowing down.
I love.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us today, and we'll be back next week.
We wish you a lovely rest of your day. Remember, you're more powerful than you realize.